Welcome to Charmed Life, a radio show discussing spirituality, magic, and the unconditional love of the universe. Thanks for tuning in. And I am your host, Tricia Carr. Am I okay? Sorry, let me start that again. And I am your host, Tricia Carr. Again, it is a live podcast, so you get to be along the ride with us for any kind of weirdness that happens, whether it's technological or Triciological. So was that me, Kurt? Was that me just thinking that I wasn't on, or was that...
Yeah, I had lowered the volume.
Oh, okay.
So you're still going through.
Because I'm sensitive.
Okay. Yeah, it's all right.
All right. So anyway, thank you for joining us. And by the way, so you can see that I actually don't edit these. I just let it fly, y'all. Thank you for joining me. If it's your first time joining Charmed Live, welcome. I would love to invite you to the different ways that you can experience this podcast, which is more than a podcast to me. It's really like, it's a gathering of hearts and souls and light. And I thank you so much for bringing your light to it. I have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/Tricia Carr, and you can find other videos in addition to the video version of this podcast. And of course, if you would like, subscribe, share, comment, and subscribe. Did I say that? Yeah, subscribe twice. Why not? To the podcast version, however you get your podcasts. And I want to just preview for you guys, because this episode is going to be so amazing, as usual, of course, because of the people who bring their light to it. I want to let you guys know that I am actually just about to schedule the next iteration of my animal communication comprehensive program. I will be announcing the schedule of it in about the next week. It will come through on my newsletter, and I will also let you guys know about it on this broadcast next week. So do join my newsletter by going to my website, Tricia Carr Charm. There should be a pop-up that will come up, and if you can also find it on the podcast and media page at the bottom where you can sign up for it. So because you can actually join and start taking the program on demand right now. And then I'm going to be offering it live, and then we'll be coming together with the community, practice and coaching and all of that kind of stuff. But you could actually get started right now if you find that on my website under the Mystic Arts Academy tab. Okay, without further delay, I am so excited about this guest. Her name is Amy Neal. She's a dog trainer and canine intuitive. You heard me, canine intuitive. Amy helps dog guardians, humans that is, see their dog as a catalyst for positive change and personal growth. Oh, goodness. Woo, got chills. Welcome to the show, Amy.
Thank you. Oh my God, I've got chills. And that dog in that picture with me, she's stuck to me like Velcro right now.
Oh,
that one.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that.
She is a spiritual powerhouse.
Oh, what's her name?
Her name is Clodagh.
Tell us about Clodagh and how she's a spiritual powerhouse. If people don't understand, like, how could a dog be? I mean, I think a lot of people who love dogs, you get that. So you may be just validating it for people who maybe are new to the idea of connecting telepathically or energetically, intuitively with a conscious kind of conversation. But tell us about how Clodagh and other animals, other dogs, like literally heal us.
Literally. So there's like a backstory goes back before I even had her. And one thing I teach people is that dogs, they come in here with a soul purpose, right? Just like we do. That's how they get their physical body. And then, sometimes they're drifters and transient, and they're like drifting through this world trying to find their human, their guardian, the person that they're supposed to be working with to heal them. And so that is why we have shelters and foster parents and rescues, because we need those housing grounding points for these dogs to flow through to get to where they're supposed to go to do their spiritual work. So that was the download that's been given to me over and over and over and over. And this dog validated that to the T. So I had just gotten into this work, and I was doing a free training on Facebook, and it was connecting in with Archangel Michael. I'm in this meditation, and she's like, now ask him for something that you really desire. And I had just come off an amazing week-long training seminar up at the Monks of Newski, where they breed and train German Shepherds, and they have a whole training program. And I mean, the connection to Spirit Source God on that mountain and those dogs that come through, is unbelievable. And so it left me really, really deeply wanting a German Shepherd. And I had some other spiritual connections from past life in my Akasha that had me connected to German Shepherds. And so I asked him, I was like, Archangel Michael, I really want a German Shepherd. And he said in my meditation, he goes, you will get a German Shepherd puppy in the next 6 months, gifted to you. Don't ask any questions. Take the dog that comes and let it be. Just accept the gift.
Wow.
And so the really funny thing is, it was such a lesson in letting go of attachment to what we manifest. Like, we're going to manifest what we desire or even more. And so ultimately what I was asking for was a really high drive, go get 'em dog, playful, like willing to train, willing to learn things, really willing to communicate in that body language sense of the word, where I could look at her and she'd be like, oh, I'm going to come sit by your side. Or like around here, I always tell people we free range everything. We free range our kids, we free range our dogs, we free range our chickens. And I don't mean we just like send everybody outside, let them fend for themselves, but like the chickens are outside in the backyard, the kids are outside in the backyard, the dogs are outside in the backyard, all together, just coexisting, getting back to nature. And so I really wanted a dog that could fit that bill. And I thought in my mind that a German Shepherd was the dog that was going to fit that for me. And so one day, randomly, scrolling Facebook, I had all these dogs. Like, I went through this month where I had all of these stray dogs and rescue dogs and dogs on euthanasia lists, like coming across my feed. And then Clodagh came across, and it was a joke, Tricia. Like, it was literally a joke. I sent her picture to my husband while he was at work. It was a joke because we have 2 beagles. And to know me is to know that I love them to pieces, but they're a real pain in the butt sometimes. They talk back, they have a mind of their own, and they're stubborn. And we have a great relationship, and I love them to pieces, and they've given me their own gifts, but I really did not want another hound.
Yeah.
So I sent him this picture, and the phone rings, like, instantly. And it was my husband, and I was like, oh God. I know exactly what's happening. I know exactly what's happening. And he's like, where's that dog? I'm like, I think in Virginia. We live in Massachusetts. And I'm like, I think she's in Virginia. I don't really know. I was just kind of joking. I'm like, don't tell me you want another hound. And he was like, I don't know. Get some info on her. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? So long story short, she was actually in Mississippi. She was a stray, and she just happened upon somebody's backyard one day. And that person was connected to me through another dog trainer. And then, like, domino effect, you just start taking action, and then all of a sudden you manifested this new dog.
Amazing.
But the gifts that she has given me since we've gotten her purpose in my life is all money mindset work.
Wow, amazing. No, did y'all know that? I'm talking to the audience now. Did you know that your animals can help you with making more money? Money mindset. What a beautiful calling that Clodagh is bringing into your experience.
Yeah, and it was I was doing some work with timeline therapy, and I'm trying to remember, did I have all 3 of the dogs in my meditation space with me? It might have just been Bella. And I was like, looked at her, and I went, why have I never thought to meditate with you before? Like, this feels so odd that I've never done this. And so I went into my meditation, and it was, some shadow work, some shadow clearing, limiting beliefs. And I came out of that meditation, and I was like, when that like your soul work like comes to you and it hits you like a ton of bricks and you're like, this is what I need to be teaching people.
Mm-hmm.
I came out of that meditation and I was like, Zen Dog Flow.
Amazing. And that's the name that's the name of a program that you're launching. That's correct? Is that the name?
Yeah.
Is it launched already? Tell us about that.
Yeah. So all 3 of my dogs have acted as spiritual guides and leaders in meditation for me, helping to clear out mental blocks for me.
Yes.
So I call it mindful untraining for the stressed out dog. But really what we're doing, it's I just changed it. So there's 9, I think there's going to be 10. No, there's 9 modules. We added one and I'm trying to remember. We go off the 7 chakras.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's 2 extra modules at the beginning, one on journaling and one on opening the sacred space to tap in to all that is and really create that really yummy container to dive into this deeper work. And so what happens is I'm finding that the most stressed out dogs get so much value behaviorally just from meditating with us.
Absolutely. And to clarify, when Amy's saying meditate with us, they actually don't have to be physically like sitting there and quiet. You know, it's right. Is this
Yeah.
is yes, exactly. So folks are like, are you kidding me? I have a Jack Russell Terrier and I would have to we would have to go on a 19-mile hike before he would sit still with me for 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not
And
what
I'm
it's
like,
about.
no, you can go put your dog in the crate. You can go lay in your special spot. You don't have to have your dog with you. They are so naturally telepathic. It's unbelievable. But we as humans, we forget that. Like we've forgotten that we can naturally connect into our dogs through our vibrations and through our energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so when a dog is getting really stressed out, that's our sacred invitation to sit down and say, okay, what are you trying to tell me?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I did that day, because my journey with my dogs has not been a beautiful one in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
It has become and transformed into a magnificent journey, but they gave us a run for our money when we first got them. And there was a lot of baggage, and I had to do a lot of forgiveness work around that. And Zen Dog Flow is really what took us to that next level of relationship and trust and unconditional love. And so what I've done is I've gone through the 7 chakras and developed a meditation. And I base it on the affirmations and the limiting blocks that live in each chakra.
Mm-hmm.
And so we tap into the root and we get back into the physical body. We remember who we are. We work through that anger stuff, that the feelings of security and safety. And then we go up to the sacral chakra, being seen, then the solar plexus, and then the heart, and then the throat, and then the third eye, and then the crown. And what happens is you become an expert at this one meditation, doing it by yourself without me having to guide you by the end of the course. So my goal is for you to be able to sit down with your dog and be like, I am feeling off my rocker today. Let's get back to center. Let's do a meditation because I don't feel like going for a walk. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, my dirty little secret is I don't like walking my dogs. I don't walk them. And it's not because it's not enjoyable. I just don't force myself into that box anymore. And that's what Zen Dog Flow taught me. It's like, oh, there's other ways to exercise my dogs that are way more fun. And walking really isn't one of them.
Well, you have hounds. I guess they would they would want to do some journeying because they're so, discovery oriented in the olfactory, but you can provide that for them in other ways. And so some of the other ways you do that in your backyard and engaging with them in that way is that what are some of the other ways?
So there's so many ways. Mm-hmm. So the one way is, it's a little controversial, but it saved it saved my life with them is they were digging under the fence and they were running away for like 8 hours. And this was chronic. And finally I was like, I am done. I'm done. So I got into training, went to group class, realized I really liked it. And then I started looking at my dogs, like going, I'm not fulfilling your basic need of running free, like being able to run and scent and snarf and be curious about nature and to follow that rabbit scent. And we've always lived in places where those opportunities came abundantly for them, but I was keeping them constricted and not allowing them a safe container to do that. So I discovered and got really well trained on the use of remote collars to create a conversational relationship so that we could be outside, a bunny rabbit could run by, and I didn't have to worry about my dogs running off for 8 hours. And that's where everything shifted. They became so much more fulfilled. They didn't need 2 1-hour walks in the morning and in the evening that still weren't
enough.
Cutting it.
Yeah, still not enough. Right.
Yeah. And it was all of a sudden 30 minutes out in our open field of just letting them run and being able to work on. So what the collar did was it really helped me enhance their ability to recall and come back when I called them on the first time. And in a conversational sense. So it was all positive reinforcement. And I've got this tool that helped put my voice in a way that they could understand and be like, oh, she's talking. And when I go over there, she jackpots me with a boatload of treats.
Yeah. So the remote collar, is it a physical sensation or it's the voice? Or both? It's
a physical sensation. So it's based off of a TENS unit. If you've ever been to physical therapy, they get a really bad rap. And I will say there's a lot of really bad collars out on the market that aren't, like if you go buy a $50 collar, you're going to get correction level, really yucky. It's not going to serve your relationship. And learning how to train appropriately and responsibly with it for the highest good of the dog is also super important because you can inadvertently, without meaning to, really shut down your dog and take the joy out of their life. And that's not fun to recover. So what I did was I went out, that's why I was up at the Monks in Newski for a week, was I learned their methods, and they live free range with their dogs. Every monk on the property has their own dog, and they're responsible for training it, and they're all trained to this one specific collar, and they use it in a way that enhances the dog's pack drive. And that's how I learned. And it's such an intuitive process. Amazing. Because you have to be paying attention to where your dog is in space, like in relation to you, but you're not like looking and you're not using your words. You're feeling the energy.
Wow, that's really cool. And you're on, and so you're with them, exploring with them. You're a part of your energy is with them, and it's enhancing your family orientation or your pack orientation. So that's really gorgeous.
Yeah, and so now the life that we're able to live from all of this practice and all of this pack orientation is my chickens think I'm the greatest thing in the world. My dogs think I'm the greatest thing in the world. And when we're all out together, it's all mutually respectful because we're just a pack. And that's just the energy that I bring out into our open spaces. And I don't know how to do it any other way anymore. Like, I don't know how to be disconnected from my animals and my pets without being a big pack. And so, that is what really helped take our relationship to the next level and give my dogs intuitively what they needed.
Can you give folks a recommendation? Can you tell them the collar that you use? Because like you said, you can get ones that are not helpful.
So here's my collar. You can see it's on vibrate right now.
What's the name?
It's got 100 levels. You see it's on 0. I don't know if you can see. But it's got 100 levels. And level 100 is like an act of God. That is like if my dog is chasing a rabbit or chasing a deer or doing something really detrimental. My dogs work on level 2.
Okay.
And I don't feel it until level 8.
And what is the name? How did you find it? Is it something that could?
It's the Mini Educator.
Mini Educator. Okay. And how?
You can go to ecollartechnologies.com.
ecollartechnologies.com.
Or
Great.
I think it's ecollar, just ecollar.com.
Okay, great. Awesome.
Yeah. And I always recommend, I never, ever, 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 ever recommend DIYing it.
Okay.
Ever. Because that's where you can get into trouble. And the dog training industry in general is really, really committed in trying to put an educational background behind this collar because there's so many people fighting against it. So we're trying to advocate for that in really responsible ways. And so we're saying it's such a liberation for dogs to keep them safe and keep them in their natural environment, but don't do it without somebody that's trained professionally.
And the thing is that in a situation where dogs were, well, as Temple Grandin says, that our domestic dogs are actually juvenile wolves. That's really what they're like. So wolves, they are, we say pack, but really wolves are family animals. And the pups actually stay with their mother and father well into their adulthood until they're like sometimes 3 or 4 years old. So they're sexually mature, but they don't actually leave the family. So sure, we say pack, but according to Temple Grandin, it's really family. And so as a family unit, you would be running with them, like I said, but they have chosen a life where they are adapting to the human experience. Humans can't run with them, nor is it our calling to be sniffing out rabbits. But at the same time, it's a compromise to be able to be with them energetically and in a physical way. And in addition, these collars, they're not physically harming them. We use the words like shock collars. How terrible. It's electric shock therapy. No. A mother or a more alpha dog, canine, would correct or give instructions to, especially if they need to know right now and they need to change the mind to a different, orientation, to pay their attention somewhere else. They would give them a bite, and they wouldn't break the skin. It's not aggressive. That's not the point. But Cesar Millan actually shows us the way that he corrects the dogs physically is to make an actual kind of beak with his fingers and right there on the neck. That is mimicking what they understand naturally, the physical language, the physical redirect of the attention. So I just want to, but however, as Amy is saying, there are some that are harmful. So there is an accurate presupposition about some of them. You have to use a lot of education.
Yeah. And I really honor the people who, number one, are wary about them and are like, no, thank you. But then, they like learn, or maybe this conversation sort of piques their interest and is like, okay, I'm just going to go look and see what's out there for free information. YouTube is full of great resources for learning how these collars work. And the word that I like to use, it's efficiency, right? We're building that relationship. We're taking the path of least resistance to really solidify that bond. But again, it all comes back to Zen Dog Flow. If we have the mental blocks preventing us from being in an open and receptive energy to what our dog is showing us through their behavior, it's really no training is going to be effective because we're not open to seeing and receiving and being creative and staying curious, because so much of dog training is problem solving because you've got to figure out what excites your dog. Then you've got to take the other side of it. What do they not like that might inhibit the behaviors that are naughty, like counter surfing or garbage picking? And then play, right? We have to be able to get into a play mindset so that we can play with our dogs rather than there's such a different energy from picking up a stick and just throwing it.
Yeah.
Like over and over. Because you don't really want to play, but you're feeling like it's a chore.
Yes. And so again, you're not in that family experience. You're not in that, you're not engaged. You're just like, I mean, it's like running on a treadmill versus, doing some fun sport together. It's really a totally different experience. And that's what they want. They want to be, I mean, not just want, they need the familial engagement. They need it. We all do, of course. But if they're in your life and they're not able to fulfill that purpose, like you said, they created a body so that they could, as a domesticated animal, this is different than being an animal that is biologically predisposed to be in wild nature. We have actually interfered upon the biology of these animals, like cats and dogs who are domestic.
Yeah.
They need to be domestic. Now, they're not as domestic as we are, so we need to also give them the rest of what they need and engage those parts of their mind that are still there and really vibrant, like needing to hunt, or needing to journey physically. So that's I love all of these ideas, and like you say, it's both a physical tool, but it's energetic as well because you are engaged with them energetically as you're using this. That's really amazing.
And you can't get there. You can't get to that energetic engagement if your this is the number one thing that has been coming up universally this last week. Belief in the possibility that your dog can accomplish any behavior.
That's brilliant. Yes, start there. Because a lot of when we have the problem correction, whether it's, we're on the walk and he lunges at cats and dogs and people and babies and bicycles. And of course, it's so difficult, and give ourselves grace too, to not outpicture that as we're going on the walk, because it makes so much sense that we would outpicture that. It happened 100% of the times of the other previous walks. So we can start maybe with giving ourselves grace, but starting to believe and meditate on the possibility that we can come into alignment together with what is safe and in the highest good for all of us.
Yeah. Yes.
And your dog wants that. Your dog does want that.
I'll tell you, the heart-centered connection that exploded exponentially when I started letting my dogs take that role in my life. Like, there's days where I can't even talk about it without tearing up.
Yeah, I could feel it. Yeah, me too. So beautiful.
One of my dogs, he barks at me when I'm off center. When I'm out of alignment.
Amazing.
And I had a friend come over one day, and she's a dog trainer too. And she had done Zen Dog Flow. And she came over, and I looked at her, and I was so in like dog trainer only zone. I was not in that energetic receive mode. And I looked at her, and I was like, make him stop barking. I don't know what you have to do. I have done all of the things this morning. Just make him stop. And she looked at me and she's like, what is going on with you? And I was like, I don't know. I feel fine other than the fact that I'm annoyed he's barking at me and my ears feel like they're bleeding and I just wanted it to stop. Like, have you ever had a beagle barking at you nonstop for 2 hours?
And I haven't. I don't.
It's something
I trust you.
It's something only a beagle owner would relate to. And then all of the feelings crop up because you're a dog trainer. You can't get your dog to stop barking. And so the worthiness and the self-doubt and the comparison and this, that. She goes, pour yourself a cup of coffee, sit down. There's something going on. We're going to talk about this. And I don't even know what it was. It was like the tiniest little thing that was coming up subconsciously. We talked about it. And she goes, look at your dog. And I went. And I looked over. He was sound asleep.
He's like, oh, thank goodness. He's like, I'm going to tap in your friend. You take care of her. I'm exhausted from all this friggin' barking I've been having to do for 2 hours. Do you know how loud this is in my ear, my own bark? He was telling her, can you make me stop barking by talking to her? I'm sick of it.
Please, like, please. My energy is dwindling. I can't keep this up.
I love it. Now, I want to shift gears a little bit because I would really love to talk about, as you started, I'd love to talk kind of about that oversoul experience and the life perfect experience, the really grand experience of the dogs, the domesticated dogs, and all domesticated animals in general, coming into this experience with a primary purpose to be able to pair with a human or humans so that their life purpose can be fulfilled. This is evidenced, again, by the fact that they are creating a body that is biologically predisposed to domestication. Domestication means that they need to have shelter that they can't build on their own. They need to have the support that they can't do on their own. So physically, that requires partnership with humans. Spiritually and mentally, obviously, they are extremely advanced and they do not need us for that. They are there to help us with that. They surpass us in that. But physically, the guardian relationship is necessary for the domesticated animals, the physical guardianship. But let's talk about the cases of stray animals or lost animals. So when they need to switch situations. Then let's talk about when they don't find their human and then the euthanasia situation has to happen. I would love to talk about that because all of us who are very sensitive, especially the euthanasia bit, it's very, very difficult. But let's start with the stray and lost animals, stray and lost dogs.
All right. So you are so tapped into me because this is my favorite conversation.
It's the hardest one. So it really wants our attention. It really wants our awareness. We can't just run away from it. We can't take to our beds being, in pain about the fact that it happens. I just saw someone who's a lovely, lovely person with a heart for animals, and she rescues. It's someone in the media. And she posted a picture of a hallway lined with bodies of dogs saying this is euthanasia. And I just think that it just hurt us all so much that we felt like when you see something like that and the message that is giving us is actually, I think, one that makes us feel disempowered. So let's put some empowerment around it. So I just want to say I love that it's your favorite conversation because it's a hard one, and where the difficulty is the invitation, and it is the invitation to understand the profundity of their work. Okay, I'm going to stop again. The stray and lost. What's happening with the stray and the lost when they leave a situation or they're looking for another situation?
So what I always tell my clients, and this came up I run a mastermind too for dog trainers.
Oh, great.
And they asked one day, what about those dogs that are in abusive homes? And my answer that it always comes through when I tap in to my higher self and to source, and I say, what about those dogs that we all want to go in and rescue and pull out and save? Mm-hmm. And the message that I get is trust. Because even though it looks like to us on the outside and to our ego, and it feels painful to watch, there is something happening, whether or not that's a pit stop on the dog's physical journey onto their soul home where they're supposed to be, or maybe there's something that we're not seeing subconsciously that the dog is giving in that environment to those people that is going to change those people. I talk about in our mastermind, and I'm working on a book. It's called Dog Medicine. And all dogs give healing. Mm-hmm. And so we have to trust that for whatever reason, we don't know why, it's inexplainable, but source, God, the universe, put that dog in that situation for a reason bigger than us.
The dog's higher self did. And the work is being done. This planet is not, the contrast is still very deep in a lot of ways. And that animal, that dog, is doing the light work. And synchronicity and alignment of activity will facilitate us being able to rescue or support or, you know what I mean? Like be the bridge when it's time for them to leave those situations. It's hard, but we have to expand out sometimes. You know, the dog will leave. The dog will knock on your door. The dog will show up on your Facebook. Somehow, when it's time for them to leave, they will. They will, or sadly, they will say, okay, this life is done, and they will run out in front of a car. I mean, these things happen. It's a higher self decision. Yes. But we have to stay in that trust, that space of trust in order to do the work, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I have a lot of reverence for this conversation. And it's easy for me to talk about, so I don't want people to think that, oh, I'm just, flippant about it.
No,
but
we're not desensitized. You're deepening how you're holding the space for it. We feel the grief still, but we can't avoid the grief by becoming angry and go into blame and shaming of other humans. Those humans need rescuing, and that's why those dogs are there. They're trying to rescue the human.
Yeah, there is in the rescue world so much scarcity mindset and martyrdom.
Yep.
And we will liberate ourselves and our dogs. And I am a firm believer that the more we can help rescue workers move out of that space of, I've got to save all the dogs, I've got to dump thousands of dollars into vet bills, and give the dog a voice.
Yes.
Ask the dog what the dog wants.
Oh, gosh, Amy, I am just flooding back into my memory is a dog, oh, my gosh, that I had forgotten about until this moment. And it was early on in my opening to my, the abilities of animal communication and intuitive connecting. And so I was actually in a liquor store, and this person came in with a shopping cart and a dog in it. And this person was clearly at least some version of homeless and some version of emotionally dipped. I just say it homeless because he was there kind of with like a few coins wanting to buy a little like 2 ounce of booze or something, you know what I mean? And and the dog was in the shopping cart, and just in socially out of aligned kind of state, and really it's maybe on substances, I'm not sure, but the dog was in the shopping cart, and he just like the gravity on his face, you know what I mean? Like he was wearing the difficulty, the emotional difficulty of his life. At challenge, I should say. And I connected with the dog, and I was saying, what's going on? How's your life? How can I help you? And he said he feeds me most days. It's scary at night when he's yelling and he's out of sorts, but here I am. And I was like, I can feel I'm not going to go and snatch that dog away. You know what I mean? Like that's not going to happen, and it's not what he wants either. And so I gave the dog a mental map of how to get to my home, and mapped it all along the way and said, come find me if you're ready. And I checked in with him, and I said, you can come find me in the middle of the night when he's asleep. And then the next day I checked in with him, and he said, my work is here. My work is here. Oh.
I have chills.
And I was like, okay. Again, the alignment wasn't there. I'm not going to go and snatch and have a fight with this person who's mentally unstable. That is real. And then what? You know what I mean? I can't rob the dog of its purpose.
That dog was giving some sort of healing something to that person that was keeping that person going.
Yeah.
And we can't discount that, and we can't jump into ego and be like, oh my gosh, that's terrible. Mm-hmm. I need to save that dog right now. Right now, I need to go save that dog. Because all that's doing is pulling us out of alignment, and then we're leaking energy onto that man and then that dog, and we're creating this whole like dust storm of ick where we can just say, it doesn't feel good to see that, but I trust and I know that there's a greater power working in that scenario, in that partnership. And that dog is a benevolent cohort to that human.
Yes. And just to highlight again that while it's true in one sort of physical dimension that dogs are, like you say, if they're in abusive homes or families or situations, things that are unspeakable even. While it's true they are victims, but as a whole, continuing to see them as victims and having that the vibration, and where humans are blamed for it, where you're casting judgment, that's all separation and scarcity. And you're actually disempowering your facility to partner with the animals. The example that I give is that if I were in a relationship with, I have a partner, another person, and we're in a romantic relationship, and my partner finds out that I was raped years ago, and I'm healing from that. I'm becoming empowered through that experience, above and beyond it. But my partner just continues to imagine me as a rape victim. It doesn't actually really victimize me more, but him seeing me that way disempowers our relationship, and I can no longer be in it then, because I have to follow the path of my empowerment and the gifts that happened because of the experience. You see what I mean? And this is how we have to honor, even though they are victims on one layer, we have to empower our relationship with them by seeing them as greater than their victimhood.
Yes. So much yes. So from the shelter perspective, and I want to get into the euthanasia now.
Thanks.
And what's happening in shelters. And the biggest thing that is coming through is talk about the propaganda that's being put out on Facebook.
Mm-hmm. Yes, propaganda is the perfect word for it.
So that picture that I think we've all seen of all those dogs lined up.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
That is being pushed by extremist animal rights groups. Mm. And it's not for our highest and greatest good. And it's not for the animal's highest and greatest good. But we see it and we don't have that 30,000 foot view of what does the dog want. And so then it just is perpetuating the cycle of scarcity and separation and martyrdom.
Yes.
And I've done a fair amount of work with putting the voice back in the dog's department, like letting the dog choose. And so I've had clients that have stuck out 3 to 6 months of training with me for an aggressive dog to finally, I say finally because the nudge was there when we were in training, but they weren't ready to make the decision. They called me up and they're like, we just wanted to let you know that Franklin's no longer here. We let him go. His aggression was only getting worse.
So they had to actually euthanize?
Yeah, because he actually started stalking one of the girls in the house.
Oh, gosh. And you can't.
Right? Like, you don't have to live like that.
Yeah.
And that's your dog's invitation saying, I'm done. I don't have a voice, so I'm going to use my behavior. And I have to make my behavior loud enough for you to see.
And so in that, let's just isolate that one. In that situation, so are you, was there any other option? Obviously this dog can't go to be in a home with other people. Are there other options potentially? Or are you saying that perhaps was the only option and that's what the dog's higher self or experience was actually calling for?
So this dog, yes, because what had happened was one of the parents in the house had passed away.
Oh, gosh.
And that parent was this dog's person.
Oh, so he's like, that's my work. I'm out.
Yep, done.
And he wasn't manifesting a disease.
I had this dog in my home. And at the time, I wanted to save this dog. And so what I do is when a situation like this happens, I go all in to give my best effort to keep the dog here on the physical plane. But then I have to also step back and take that 30,000 foot view and say, does this dog really want to be here? Is this in the best interest, or are we just emotionally dragging everything out?
What comes to mind in this situation, if I don't mean to interrupt, but what comes to mind is, there's mental illness going on with this dog. And I think the reason the mental illness is there is because his higher work was no longer in this experience. And so what's left is lower primitive mind. And so his higher mind was no longer in the experience. This happens with humans when we have dementia and everything, and they just aren't present anymore. And there's parts of them that show up and come in and out. But even though there's energy creating a physical form, their higher purpose is maybe not there, or other nuances of their purpose is no longer in this life. Right? Does that make sense to you? Because there's mental illness when that dog is doing that.
He's so heavenly minded, he was no earthly good.
Mm-hmm.
He was so, like, he'd have moments where he'd come in and he'd be engaged and he'd be okay, and then he'd snap out.
Yeah.
And then when he'd snap out, he'd become angry and aggressive and would try to bite. And having seen and lived with this dog without the owners present for a couple of days, I wanted to save him, and I was hoping that training and energy work and healing could resolve the issues. He's the only dog that energy work did not improve. And so it actually got to when we ended, it was kind of difficult because everybody was so emotionally distraught, but nobody was really talking about it. And so we ended the training, and we ended it on a good note. And I said, you guys know what to do. It's sticking with it and keeping everybody safe. And then ultimately they finally made the decision to let him transition. And the joy and the harmony and the balance that it brought back into their life, when his mom called me and said, we let him go, but Gracie, our other dog, is thriving and she gets to be the star that she always wanted to be. And everybody's so happy. And she's like, I took her to the vet and she was just got gold stars all around. And so sometimes we have to liberate our dogs. We have to step out of our own way and say, this life isn't for you anymore.
Yeah.
And I've got a couple of other examples, but the best one was a rescue scenario. One of my dog training friends, and I'm mentoring her in our mastermind. She, out of the blue one night, she messaged me and she was like, I've got a dog on the euthanasia list. I have to make the decision. I don't know what to do. And being in the mastermind with me, I said, hold the presses. I'll tap in. I'll talk to him. We'll do an energy healing. I'll see what he wants. And I asked him, I said, is your work done here? And he was like, no. And so I had more of a conversation, aligned his chakras, and he was acting out and acting aggressively in the shelter environment because he was trying to get out of the shelter environment.
Right.
He wasn't thriving. He had more work to do, and he knew where he had to go to do it, which was with this person that had to make the decision. And so, and now he's doing great. She's got him. She's fostering him. She runs her own rescue. And I am so excited because she gave the dog a voice and let him decide. And then a couple of weeks later, she had a run-in with another dog that was like, nope, I'm done. I'm done. Please don't take me out. And again, that dog had an aggressive outburst with intent, whereas this other dog was acting scary and kind of tantrumy, but just was putting on a show. My bark is worse than my bite type of show. But once he got out of that environment, he, like, the layers, the stress was like, just melted off him.
What about when you have dogs? So you have several, you have a little pack, you have a little family, 2 or 3 or something like that. And after a certain amount of time, like years or something like that, suddenly one dog starts to attack another. And like usually the one that is being attacked or victimized, it's always when there's a trigger, you know what I mean? Like somebody gets scared or something like that. It's seemingly, and sometimes it's so subtle, it's like you can't even see it. And they always do it only when the humans are around. Like, isn't that such a typical situation? Generally speaking, obviously there are individuals here. Can you give us some general, because I know you've seen this many times, and this is usually correctable. This is usually can be realigned. This isn't, situation that is in that extreme that you've talked about, the one single extreme case where it was time to liberate the dog.
Exactly. Like I've trained a lot of dogs over the last 3 or 4 years. And that was the only dog that was in the extreme like that.
Yeah.
And so this sort of scenario that you're talking about is like, you've got all these dogs coexisting and then all of a sudden they're not coexisting peacefully anymore. And you're like, what's going on? The first place that I always dive into is I go, okay, what chakras are off in what dog? Because they're so spiritually connected. If one dog is feeling off or one dog isn't grounded or something is off in that dog's energy, the other dog is going to come in and correct it because they're only ever seeking joy and peace.
And when the humans are around, because they're there to be a part of that, again, their purpose is with the humans, even, they work together as partners and colleagues, basically. But when the humans are around, they're like, okay, we're on now. So you're effing up. So I'm going to fix you. You know what I mean? Like, that's why. And I think sometimes we, even maybe I've seen animal communicators that, in my opinion, they start to blame the human a little too much. And they're like, it's because you have too much stress and you're effed up in this way and you're this, you know what I mean? Like blaming the humans because of their imbalances. Come on, we're all imbalanced.
Yeah, it's like, no, it's an invitation to just dive into those parts.
Yeah.
The dog is just saying, we feel that part so strongly in you. And we also see how amazing you are and we love you so much. And our relationship can be so much more joyful if we uncover that shadowy bit.
And we also have to recognize these dogs, these animals are individuals themselves. So they're not perfect. We feel like they're perfect, but they're not. They can have imbalances. There's this one dog trainer who made this video and he was like, I'm going to say something controversial. Some dogs are assholes. And it's just, he's like, some dogs are just, they can be assholes sometimes. Like some people are. He's like, I have dogs sometimes and I see them getting a little idea that they're going to be kind of a dick to another dog. And, you know, and they're nuanced. They're full personalities. They are better than us, I will say. But generally speaking,
so funny.
But they can have imbalances, and they can need some support, and they can need some counseling. So it's not always about blaming the human or anything like that. That certainly doesn't get us in the healing state where we just start casting shame upon humans for not being perfect.
And I want to expand on that.
Please.
Because that is running rampant in the dog training industry right now. Yeah. And I got really turned off and got really angry with dog training for a little while when I first got into animal communication and learning to heal and opening up to my gifts, because I was seeing it so blatantly. And there's so many dog trainers out there that are meaning well. They're so passionate. But that passion is coming out as frustration, blame, and shame.
Yes.
And it's going out on the owners and it's going out to other dog trainers. And nobody is perfect.
Right.
Nobody is going to lead a perfectly manicured life with their dog. That's not why we have dogs.
It's not why we are here.
That's not why we're here to do anything.
Yeah.
And there was definitely a point in my life where I expected perfection out of my dogs because I was running in that circle.
Yeah.
And I was feeding off that energy. And then I woke up one day and I was like, what am I doing? This isn't me. This isn't aligned with me. This is not serving my dogs. They're stressed out 24/7. And I'm actually really resenting them because they're not doing what I want. Right. And none of it was fun. None of it was play. None of it was joyful. And so we did a detox. I stopped training. I stopped using the remote collar. And I just let them just relax and just come back into their body. And the dogs are always giving us a sacred invitation to dive deeper.
Yes.
We can either accept it or we don't. We either receive the invitation openly and dive in, or we are either just unconscious to what's happening and aren't even aware. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just going to make either the training process longer and there's going to be more resistance along the way, or you're just not even going to train your dog, and those are the people that are just annoyed with their dog 24/7. I don't know why my dog does this. I can't get them to stop. I'm like, well,
that's amazing.
we can talk about it if you want.
Yes, absolutely. Wow, this conversation. I could just talk to you all day, Amy. And but we are actually even overtime. I couldn't help it. I couldn't
help it.
It's how it is. I know, because we could just be in this space forever. You actually took my animal communication program, and you were amazing in it. And the community that we build when we do that program together, I just love it so much. So I just wanted to mention that to everyone. And Amy is still in the community. We have a community that's ongoing with the animal communication with my program, and people support one another and practice their readings. And so I just wanted to mention that. And I want to point out to everyone, Amy's program, Zen Dog Flow, that sounds phenomenal. Highly, highly recommend that. I love that, it's all based on the chakras, and then you will learn how to connect with your dog and actually through that process be able to balance yourself, balance your dog, offer that supportive relationship. And so go check out Amy's work. Is there anything else you would like to say before we end the program today, Amy?
I am first so grateful to have shared this time and to open up that really important conversation that we just had, because that is my passion, and I want to spread that far and wide, that it's okay if a dog wants to not be here anymore, and give the dog a voice.
Yes.
And Zen Dog Flow is going to be launching at the end of August. So if you guys want more information, you can come hang out with me in my free group over on Facebook, Zen Dog Online Owners Studio. It's a place where owners and dog trainers and other people that just want to learn about everything that we talked about today to gather in a space of unconditional love. So we're open to all walks of life, all dog owners, any dog trainers. It's a judgment-free zone. And
beautiful.
That's where you're going to stay caught up with me and all of my fun stuff.
And of course, all of her links the links to her website at least are in the show notes, however you are receiving this. So thank you again, Amy Neal, dog trainer, canine intuitive. What beautiful work that you're doing. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you all for tuning in this week. I am excited to continue to create this show with all of you. You bless me so much. I send all of my love and all of my blessings to you. Thanks for tuning in. I love you, whoever you are.